Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniegolu. To Ethiopia now, where the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has declared a 6-month state of emergency in the northern state of Tigray. In a televised address, Mr. Ahmed accused the local government of attacking federal troops. He called the region's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, traitors, and said that a line had been crossed. There is considerable tension in Ethiopia after a large military base was reportedly taken over by forces loyal to the regional government in Tigray. And Mr. Ahmed has accused the TPLF of being behind the attack. On Tuesday, Ethiopia's federal government proposed that the TPLF be designated a terrorist organization. Well, for more on the escalating situation in Ethiopia, let's speak now to the Ethiopian human rights activist Zelealem Tessema. Good to see you, Zelealem. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And just remind us briefly of the causes of this latest crisis in Ethiopia.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me. So the background to this situation is Ethiopia was meant to be holding national parliamentary election in August 2019, but due to the COVID pandemic, this has been postponed, just like what else is happening in the rest of the world. There is worldwide, there are about 73 countries who postponed their national elections, but TPLF, which incidentally is already a registered terrorist organization in the US, in which Secretary of State Pompeo have also tweeted about their terrorist activities. So they unilaterally, they're one region out of 9 regions in Ethiopia. These are people who were in power before Abiy came, who have pilfered the country and done a lot of human rights abuses. So they would not accept the change that has come through because that is really a threat to their way of life. They went and bunkered in their capital city in the northern Ethiopia. And then since then, they have been organizing terrorist activities of ethnic cleansing and ethnic clashes between different ethnic groups in Ethiopia. And in September 2020, they held unilaterally, in violation of the constitution, a regional election which was nullified by the federal government. This is basically to make as much as possible Ethiopia is ungovernable and that Prime Minister Abiy is a lame duck. So the latest is a daring kind of move. They went and attacked the Ethiopian National Defenses, which has been stationed northern Ethiopia, looking after the boundary with the neighboring Eritrea. As you know, Ethiopia has been in war with Eritrea up until Abiy Ahmed came to power, and this arrangement have been put in place. So this is the whole background to it, Charles.
For putting that in perspective for us, I mean, it does appear, though, that the authority of the federal government, just to put it in very simplistic terms, is being challenged on a regional level. I mean, they've held elections regionally, even though the federal government banned that. But now this latest move, you have to agree, has taken things to a higher level. I mean, do you agree with those who say that this could lead to all-out war? Are those concerns justified?
I know it is an unpleasant situation that has happened to Ethiopia. It should have not happened, but I doubt that it would go to an all-out war because it is not what they would like to put it. The government has to do what it has to do in terms of restoring peace and stability in the country. And I believe that the federal government has got enough powers, and the whole of Ethiopia and the Ethiopian people are behind it in its action, because Ethiopians have tolerated long enough, and Abiy governments, in fact, beyond what the people of Ethiopia would have liked, what this group of people are doing the rest of Ethiopia, and even to the people in Tigray. Tigray is a bit like North Korea of Ethiopia, okay, right? And people have no rights, nobody else have got freedom of expression or any other sort of basic universal rights are not respected in Tigray. So I doubt it will go to that. And well, hopefully that this thing would come under control, and a state of emergency have been declared, and that would, I understand, lawmakers are in the process of ratifying that, and that once that would be implemented, hopefully things will come back to normality or order would be restored.
I mean, the problem for the federal government in Ethiopia, Zelealem, is that beyond Tigray, we're also seeing Oromo complaints talking about increased marginalization. I mean, is it all the more worrying and ironic that this is a prime minister who won the Nobel Peace Prize and now cannot seem able to contain all these outpourings of grief and resentment, which appear to be turning into conflict and violence?
Well, I agree with you. It's a bit of an irony, okay? But there are two things to that. One is these groups are organizing and orchestrating sort of like insurrections everywhere, and the Oromo region is a bit of a hot spot. And the other issues are the Oromo politicians themselves. Really, I'm not sure they know what they want, because on regional levels they have got all political and economic echelons and power. On federal level, I mean, will have to take time. They will have to be patient and wait for the election, take full control of it. They were a bit impatient about it. So I am pretty sort of convinced that if the TPLF is sort of controlled, especially now their financial power is basically decapitated due to the change in the so the notes, the monetary notes in Ethiopia, that they're in a bit of sort of desperate situation. So that would all come under control. That is my understanding. Yes, Ethiopians are behind their government and hopefully vigilant about what's happening. And I sincerely hope that Ethiopia would see better days.
Well, I mean, when you say the Ethiopian people, Ethiopia, of course, a big country with a number of regions. And I mean, I understand the people in the Tigre region appear to be supporting their regional government. I also understand that there are concerns that elements of the federal military based in Tigray may be more loyal to the Tigrayan government than the federal government. I mean, what can you tell us about that?
There is a bit of ethnic politics that is being played out both at the military and in the civilian structure. But about people of Tigray being sort of behind the Tigrayan regional government, I really sort of, with a pinch of salt, it's just like saying North Koreans are behind Kim Il-sung, okay? Because they are not allowed sort of to have any say. And I'm pretty sure that the people would want a more rural sort of democracy, just like the rest of Ethiopians. And sort of in the Oromo region, like I said, so those sort of pockets of violences are mainly organized and perpetrated by the TPLF. They are the financiers and the organizers of that. The Oromo people, yes, there are some marginalization, sort of Oromo questions, which could be addressed through the constitutional process. And there is no need for any more violence in Ethiopia. Ethiopia has got a federal structure which can handle all of this. So I trust the institutions are, and the government is capable of bringing peace and order back in place.
Well, I mean, Zelealem, if as you say, the people of in Tigray have been under the authoritarian heel of their regional government, I mean, isn't that partly the fault of the federal government? I mean, how could the federal government, which is in charge of internal security, allow such a situation to, occur in that country? I mean, isn't that a sort of, referendum, bad sort of referendum, if you like, on the federal government?
Alice, I agree with you to an extent that is what Ethiopians have been saying. How are they allowed to get away with in terms of undermining the federal government up to now. But the federal government have been either sort of reluctant or basically trying to play the being patient and trying to use other instruments in terms of making them irrelevant or trying to show that they are not representing the Tigray people, or the Tigray people will themselves will rise up and ask the questions. But they have now shot themselves in the foot. And they have went and attacked the national defenses. And I would hope that the government would be using this opportunity in terms of either bringing them back to the fold, or there will have to be sort of the necessary appropriate steps are taken to bring back sort of peace and stability in Ethiopia. The country is much bigger than a small sort of number of people who are trying to sort of create havoc in the country.
Well, I mean, the problem appears to be, Zelealem, looking in from outside. The international community, a lot of people there have expressed concern, and there seems to be the feeling that this conflict has all the elements and all the recipes for an absolutely disastrous sort of conflict. What do you think needs to happen now? I mean, does the international community, regional and continental leaders need to put, you know, pressure on the federal government in Addis Ababa and also on Tigray's government to stop the fighting and agree a ceasefire, address this constitutional impasse, and then get some sort of movement towards comprehensive negotiations to address all of Ethiopia's potential problems, which appear to be considerable?
Charles, I understand what sort of, will this escalate into sort of on our all-out war or instability for the region? I doubt it, because Ethiopia is sort of in peace with its northern neighbor. In fact, Ethiopia is being accused by the Tigrayan authorities, working too much closely what used to be their old foe, Eritrea. So they don't like that. On the other side, on Sudanese border, okay, Ethiopia is working well with the Sudanese government. So at the moment, the Tigrayan Liberation Front people are cornered from different directions into the mainland, in the Amhara region. Yeah, they're having sort of difficult time, and they have lost a lot of territory already. And most of their special forces are, I understand from the news that I had, have surrendered in the mainland. On the other side, they have been sort of handing over themselves to Eritrea. So yes, there would be sort of issues in the next coming days, hopefully not even weeks, but this is something that Ethiopia can handle. The international community, yes, will have to be concerned, because Ethiopia, the capital of the AAU, and so a country of 110 million people, that's a worry. But this is something that Ethiopia can resolve by itself. And I am pretty sure that the people of Tigray are with the federal government once this rebel group who are in power and who have been sticking fingers, or the rest of the nation and the federal government are sort of out of in place.
Okay, Zelealem, I want to thank you very much indeed for your insights there, and we appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. Zelealem is an Ethiopian human rights activist. And you're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead, including as the Nigerian Human Rights Commission in Abuja inaugurates its investigative panel into police brutality. We ask, can it deliver justice to the dozens of complainants? Stay with us.